All right, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a weekend Saturday. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day so far. August 16th, 2025 is the date, 11:31 a.m. That's California time here. Latest activity shows a 1.5 across the Alaska area. Earlier this morning here, we had some earthquake activity off the coast of Northern California towards the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone here. It looks like it's right off the triple point boundary. 3.6 coming in here. A couple other earthquakes early this morning as well in the 2 range. Cascadia subduction zone has been quite active out here in terms of the south side here, the southern end, and also the tremor counts have been quite elevated. Let me show you guys the Cascadia tremor here. This is from yesterday, by the way. 212 epicenters of tremor, mainly up north. Although in the last week or so, if we look at the last week, it'll show some movement down here across the extreme southern end. Seems as though this has been, whenever we get tremor activity down here, it's been stressing the area just offshore along the southern area of the Cascadia subduction zone. I don't know if that's a good or bad sign. Either way, I do think we need to watch this because elevated tremor activity can lead to one of these days here, maybe the big one out here. Just don't know when it's going to happen. Got to be prepared, though. Up in Washington, a couple earthquakes out there. Some from yesterday, some from today. It looks like a 1.7 shallow earthquake up here, west of Seattle or west of Olympia. Aside from that, looks pretty quiet. They did add a couple earthquakes up here on Mount Rainier from yesterday. So let's go spot those earthquakes, okay? We're going to go over there to the PNSN network, and we're going to compare the readings that they're picking up for those recorded earthquakes compared to the ones that they're not reporting on. Mount Rainier, make sure everything's off, which it is. So the 2 earthquakes there yesterday, 1332 and 1157 down here. Still pretty shallow earthquakes. This one is negative 2.6, which would mean it's much more shallower up towards the summit area because you have to account for the elevation out here. So we'll go over here to, well, we're already there. Let's open this one up here. I kind of wanted to keep that time up. So 1332 is our 0.5 from yesterday. 1332, so we have to go back to the previous time. 1332 is going to be roughly, got to be one of these quakes here in the 1300-hour time period, so around 1 o'clock or so. But if there's one, what about these other 2? You know, that's what I'm saying. It's like they only pick 1 or 2 out of a bunch of clusters and then throw it up on the USGS map. So a little 0.5 out there somewhere, one of these, I believe. And then the other one is a 0.3 just before noon yesterday. So let's see if we can find that just before noon. Here's the noon time. We would go back up to the blue. Let's see here. I guess that would be this one. See that little earthquake right here? The little blue one just before noon. So that's a 0.3. But then again, what about all these other marks out here? That's what I'm saying. They're identical in terms of the visual aspect here on the graph. Can rock falls make stuff like that? Sometimes, but they're a little bit different signal. It may look something like this here. But what about this quake? You know, there's still, from what I can see here, there's still quite a bit of earthquake swarming going on there across Mount Rainier. Let's see if those quakes showed up on the other seismograph station here nearby. And by the way, this is today's time period. Notice the thick lines out here. More than likely, that's some big-time wind stirring up from last night. Had a decent low-pressure system up there. Let me show you guys here real quick. It's going to get stronger, too, around the area of Washington. So, obviously, up at the higher elevation, around Mount St. Helens, Mount Rainier, you're going to see higher wind gusts. And around the area, you know, it looks like maybe 29, some 40-mile-an-hour gusts, and I'm sure higher across some of the peaks out there in Washington. But that will show up on the seismograph station, something like that. Thickness in terms of the readings. But as you can see, and it will show a lot of choppy activity out there. Probably some ice blowing around up there that would make those type of readings, but there's still earthquake activity in this cluster of noise, so to speak. Not a whole lot, but we're still seeing some earthquake activity out there. Let me go check out the other seismograph station here while we're looking. This one sits down south here to the southwest of Mount Rainier. Some noise out there on the graph. I want to check those 2 earthquakes out from yesterday just before noon. So that's going to be the blue line, maybe right here. See that little spike kind of hiding back there? That's a little 0.3. And then there was another one here, 1332, a little bit larger. 1332 halfway point, somewhere out here in the mix. It's just a lot of clustering going on here. And, you know, those definitely could be some rockfall signals. I'm thinking that's what it is. That's what they are as far as these signals go. But still got some earthquake activity out there. Nothing like what we've seen there back in July. That has, of course, calmed down quite a bit, but there's still earthquake activity. Here's what it looked like there on the 9th of July. Quite a bit of seismic signatures out there, all earthquakes, but you know, a lot of these look like some of the quakes that we're seeing on the other graph. But they didn't call these rock falls and ice breaking. They call these earthquakes. So I don't know. We'll continue to watch that. Always keeping my eye on the area. Mount St. Helens, nothing showing up there, but I do want to double check that volcano. I think we should definitely keep an eye out here. Cascades have been pretty quiet historically, aside from Mount St. Helens here, but let's see what Mount St. Helens is reporting. Some noise out there, I think, from all the wind last night. This looks like a localized event here. Another localized event. Previous UTC time. A couple out there. Nothing big going on as far as any swarms go. We will double check the Mount Hood area. Check this one up here. I'm pretty certain this, well, I think this one is the one to look at. There's a couple of those that work, and then there's some that don't. So this one looks like it's offline here. That's at Mount Hood. Let's see if this one's working by chance. This one's way off, way overblown. Yeah, it doesn't look. Looks like a little event right there. It's hard to see though in the noise of the seismograph stations when they're all messed up like this. But anyway, nothing big going on for now. I think we would know about it. Bay Area of California, pretty quiet aside from a couple smaller quakes there. From yesterday and today, still got earthquake activity up here at Clear Lake Volcanic Field. There's there's Volcano. This is a whole volcanic area. You got Mount Canocti up north here around Clear Lake. Beautiful volcano. If you take Highway 20 here through Clear Lake and that way across the region of 101, absolutely beautiful volcano. And yeah, it's definitely quiet in terms of any movement. People got their houses all up here across the volcano for a beautiful view. But you know, there's still heated areas down below, and around Cobb Mountain there's massive amounts of geothermal plants out here that utilize that heated area below to create energy to power some homes around the Bay Area. Some of these areas are more active than some on certain days, but it does look like that big time uptick that was happening out here. It's kind of died off. These guys know what they're doing. Quite a few years back here, they were starting to get into the 4 and 5 range in terms of magnitudes, and that was actually starting to damage some people's homes out there. And it was because result of the geothermal operations out here. So they're trying to keep the earthquake activity at a minimum. That's probably in their best interest as well. Don't want to start damaging people's homes there from the bigger quakes. And those are geothermal plants out there. Southern California here, I don't see anything above 2.5. Mostly smaller microquake activity out here today. No unusual swarms. There's that one earthquake there from yesterday. Well, actually, that's this morning here, it looks like. 1.1. I know we had one down here a couple days ago, down around the Puente Hills Thrust Fault. This one is on the Hollywood Fault, it looks like. Eagle Rock Fault. Some of these are somewhat interconnected here. I know they're all differently named, but, you know, there's a lot of faults down there. Southern California in general is a huge spider web of faults all over the place. Out and about, nothing showing up there on Yellowstone National Park. We'll double check that just real quick, make sure. Go over here to the Volcano website here from the USGS and check out Yellowstone. Everything pretty green out there as far as the volcano statuses go. Not really seeing anything of major interest. There's a seismograph station there across Yellowstone. This one seems to be okay far as the amplitude readings. I don't see anything of any interest there across Yellowstone for now. Rest of the country, oil fields in Oklahoma, nothing new going on there. Big hurricane out in the Atlantic. We'll check that out here in a little bit. So let's see what we got stirring up here overnight as far as the largest magnitude today so far. It goes to a 5.6 down here across the Loyalty Islands area. That's south of Vanuatu. Pretty shallow earthquake. That earthquake follows a pretty deep earthquake there from yesterday, 4.6. Nothing major going on there across New Zealand for now. I do expect that to move, though, eventually. Let's go check out the EMSC data here just for a minute. I know it's going to get all crazy on me as far as not working right, but I do want to see if I can spot New Zealand down here, see if there's any earthquake activity occurring. See, by the time I even get down there, the page is not working here. It's just kind of an odd deal here. Let's try the Microsoft Edge one. Go down here to New Zealand. They're showing one earthquake here from UTC time of 8:16, a little 3.3, 192 kilometers deep underneath North Island. Oh, that's definitely associated here with that subduction zone, the deeper areas. That's the Hikurangi there. I don't see anything of any major interest. Typical clustering going on here across the Indonesia area. Japan region. See this thing. I don't know. I wonder if it does it for anybody else here. You try to move it one way and it snaps back into place here. It's really irritating. And that's why I don't use this map all that often. But the earthquake 3D globe here is absent of EMSC data until they get it fixed. As far as the servers go, hopefully that will be soon, because it is affecting apps as well on the phone. As far as when you have an earthquake app, if you get your data from EMSC, it most likely won't be showing up because of the server issue. Japan, well, northward here along the Curlcam chat, got quite a bit of earthquake activity stirring up there today. Of course, that's some aftershock sequences, which are very normal, following that 8.8 there back in July. I don't see anything of abnormal activity. Still some 4s and 5s. Well, no 5s actually, just a bunch of 4s still continuing. A little bit up north here. Looks like a 4.3 further up off the Kamchatka Trench there. One earthquake back on the west side of Japan from yesterday. Nankai Trough here still holding on, but that's another area of concern as far as megaquake activity goes. Decent uptick here across the South America area yesterday. It does look like we've had a couple here today, including a 4.6 a little bit further up north here, outside the around the Ecuador area. Yesterday, a swarm of movement here around the Chile region and Peru area. But aside from that, the Atlantic Ocean looks pretty quiet out there. Not seeing anything major going on. 4.9 offshore. Way off the coast there of Spain, Portugal area. That is on the plate boundary, though, around Vincent Ridge. They do get earthquake activity out there, and quite often. The historical model there shows us that. Nothing like the ridge boundary does, though. But all right, let's go check out space weather here real quick. Actually, I want to check out Kilauea Volcano before I forget about it, because I think we're getting close to another eruption there on the big island of Hawaii. Check out the summit cam here real quick. Yeah, still quite a bit of volcanic gases there going on, which is normal. The inflation chart shows us that we're still going up, although a little bit of stationary tilt going on here in the last few hours. A little bit of curvature here going on, but I do think we're somewhat close to seeing an eruption. If you look back here at the last several episodes leading up to an eruption, it's at that line there at 5. And that's where we're at right now. It can go up higher, but most of them right around that level is when we see the eruption. So that could happen at any time as far as the episode 31 goes, a killer whale volcano eruption again. Space weather activity, a little C flare, C 1.0, that is coming off of, looks like maybe this area right here. Might be a combination of a couple different ones equaling that C flare level. But this one is starting to flare up a little bit. Let's see what sunspot number that is. Looks like it's going to be 4180. Wow, you can barely see it. I think it's going to be this area, roughly about center disk. Maybe back over here. There's really not a whole lot here. 4180. Looks like maybe this spot back over here has grown a little bit overnight, but not much. Really not expecting much from any of these. This is going to be pretty quiet here as far as any decent flares go for a little bit. No major roars in the forecast for now. Pretty quiet conditions. That coronal hole that's facing us, or has been facing us, let's take a look here at the most recent image. Right here, maybe. There we go. No big earthquake uptick. No unusual earthquake activity. And I'm really surprised they haven't mentioned anything about high-speed solar wind stream here. Let's go take a look here at that real quick, see what we got, if there's any forecasts here. There is, yeah, they've added something here. Here's the sun in the yellow, Earth in the green. You got satellite stereo A there in the red. So here's a high-speed solar wind stream. Notice that coronal hole is facing us. It takes about 48 to 72 hours for that high-speed solar wind stream to hit Earth. There it is. We could see, well, that's density. A little bit of speed in there as well. We could see some aurora activity from that coming up. It doesn't look like SolarHam there has it up yet. But definitely we could see some aurora activity coming up here, it looks like. Let's see if these guys have... It's around the 21st or so. It doesn't quite cover that time period yet, so we'll have to check back on that as we get a little bit closer to that time period. But aside from that, as I said, nothing major going on for the auroras. A quick glance here at the next close approach asteroids. One of these days we're going to see a close one out there. That one's actually within the Earth-Moon distance. Newly discovered 32-foot bus-size asteroid coming in here in 2 days. That's actually pretty close, but we recall early last year, we had one come in, pretty small one, within about 12,000 miles of us. So once we start, I mean, I love looking at these as far as the orbital diagram viewer and looking and see how close this can get. And take a look at the path and whatnot, but that's still fairly safe. Normally I won't pull out the orbital viewer until it gets about 50,000 miles or so, or lower, but that's fairly safe. That'd be a decent little fireball, though, if it did hit the Earth or enter into the atmosphere. Okay, so let's go check out the hurricane activity out here. I hear Erin is a hurricane category 5. Hurricane Erin right here. Goodness, that is a big hurricane and a well-defined eye right there. That strengthened like crazy overnight. So let's take a look here and see what we got here for the latest information on that. Looks like we got, wow, 160 mile per hour sustained winds. Hello, that is a big one. That is, fortunately for everyone out here, including the eastern portion of the country, expected to turn northward as a major hurricane and then weaken as it gets north here, north of Bermuda area. But no threat to land right now, only tropical storm watch there across this area, but everything else looks fairly safe out there. I don't think this thing's going to turn into any damaging event as far as landfall goes, but that is a decent system for sure. Let's check out the models now that show another potential system coming behind that. Let's see what it looks like today. There's Erin out there spinning up. It broadens and then it weakens and heads off to the northeast, but ways away from land, which is good. Then back behind that, see, that one's today showing a little bit further southern route, around the 26 or so, 25th, 26th, here in about 10 days. That's a ways out, but remember, 10 days ago or so, it picked up on Erin. Although it did show Erin coming into the Gulf, hitting Florida, then eventually hitting the coast, but that backed off. But the important thing here is that it picked up on the tropical system developing and sustaining into a hurricane. It's doing that with this as well. There's obviously some signs here that there's obviously going to be a decent system forming. Where it's going to go, that will be a little bit clearer as we get closer to that time period, but right now still taking it right there into Florida, into the Gulf. We'll see how that plays out, though. We do have to watch this because it's not, the chances of this actually playing out are not completely zero, and it could be worse than that, so we do have to check that out as we get closer to that time period. As far as any cool downs happening here across the country, let's see here. Go back to this is the 16th right here. Got some cool weather coming in, I guess, here for California and the Pacific Northwest. I'll definitely take that. We're supposed to be down in the low 90s or so, and then it's going to cook towards the end of next week and this weekend or next weekend. Look at that, hot. A little bit of cooler weather up north around Montana into Canada. It does look like eastern portion of the country, at least around the Great Lakes, got some cooler weather coming in around the 26th or so. But that's a ways out there. It's I'm hoping for pattern changes out here. I'm ready for some cooler weather. I think I'm not for sure. Depending on where you're at out here, right? 80s or 90s, I can deal with that. But when it gets above 100 and 110. Like it can out here in Northern California, it gets a little rough, and it gets old really quick. So anyway, we'll keep an eye on that tropical system, see how that plays out. All right, seismograph stations out there pretty quiet. I don't see anything really showing up on it. I'll continue to keep an eye here on the EMSC data. Hopefully, I'm sure they're aware of the issue. I'm not the only one that uses EMSC data, earthquake data, on my phone app or on the Earthquake 3D Globe. I'm sure they're got overloaded there with emails and calls and messages there on their social media accounts that their server is not working. I mean, obviously, we can go to the direct server, but when it comes to accessing the quake data for apps and the Earthquake 3D Globe, it's just non-existent there. But man, if this thing worked right and it wasn't just as glitchy, I would use it more. But maybe it's just a street map that does that. Let's see here. Middle America Trench, pretty active. I'm just testing this out, seeing how it's working. Well, it might just be I think it's got something to do with the integrated fault system maps out here. That kind of messes with it. But it looks like it works okay when you got the EMSC data on, or the EMSC map. Maybe that's what it was. Huh. No, it's still messing up. Anyway, all right. Enough of that. Enough of it. We'll catch you guys out here a little bit later on this evening, folks, for the Saturday night update. Enjoy your weekend out there. Fall's coming up. We're getting closer. I know we got to get through August and September, but after that, things start to they cool down. I'm ready for Halloween. I'm a big-time fan of the Halloween and everything else that goes on towards the cooler months of the year. All right. We'll catch you guys later tonight. Have a good one.